Welcome back to Morgan's video blog, Morgan's online blog in video format. Today I'm here to share with you a rant. When you ask someone to read your first chapter. Now, I know it sounds innocuous, especially when you're just starting out. You've managed to write something. You're trying to decide if it's worth pursuing, and you want to reach out and just ask. So you log on to a writer's forum, and it's okay, everyone does it. You log in and you ask for someone, anyone, to read your first chapter. And I gotta confess, when I see that plea, I sigh. I sigh because I know the truth. When a beginner writer asks for someone to read their first chapter, I know what they're really asking for. And I mean, what they really want. It's what every writer wants, really. They want to be told that their story sounds interesting. They want to be assured that, yes, they can write. Their mind spewing words on paper makes sense to people outside their heads. Third, they want to be told that their characters are fascinating, that the reader cares about what happens to them. Fourth, they want to be told that they have something marketable. Even if you're not all about the Benjamins, you still want something that a publishing house is going to be willing to publish because they find it marketable. And finally, they want to be asked for the next chapter. And I mean, sometimes that writer is looking for feedback, and sometimes they're looking for a collaborator to bounce ideas off of. But they are looking for reassurance. There's only one problem with this. Unless you are an amazing writer who excels right out of the box at something that eludes most writers, especially new ones, there's a problem. And the problem is with all first chapters, really. 1, rough drafts suck. 2, stories change. And 3, opening chapters are usually trash. Even for plotters, things can shift. The emotional core of the story might change, or you might find a plot hole 20 chapters down the line. As a reader, without more story to go on, there is no way I can tell from looking at your first chapter if your story is going to be any good. You don't even know where your story is going yet. How can I tell if it's setting up the story right? And there's a belief in certain writer circles and editor circles that the first 20 pages, first chapter, 5 chapters can be just thrown out. And I found this kind of holds true for most writers, especially beginner runs. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to write your first chapter, even if you intend to cut it. First chapters are very useful. I mean, first off, you gotta start somewhere. You can't start with chapter 2, otherwise chapter 2 becomes chapter 1, and you gotta write a first chapter. Secondly, you're exploring the setting. You've not written this world before, so you're still feeling things out. And third, you're learning how to write your characters, your main characters, your secondary characters. You're learning their voices. And it can take more than 1 or 2 pages to really get into the flow. But your first chapter is for you, not your readers. Now, this is a follow-on, and this goes out to a special subset of writers, usually fantasy or romance writers, but sometimes, family sagas. If you're a first-time writer who's managed to write almost 20 pages, and you tell me it's the first chapter of a planned 7-book series, my sigh is gonna be extra heavy. Now, don't get me wrong, it's great to set your sights high, but for many writers, including me, the energy and motivation for a new story idea will take you about 5,000 words in, right about where you are, and then it kind of turns into work. You've just written 1% of your proposed 7-book series. 1%. Plus, there's another problem, especially if you don't have an agent and you're thinking about going traditional. You should only be selling 1 book at a time, and that book needs to stand alone. Yes, overarching plot lines are great, but each story still needs to have its own natural stopping point. Prove to me that you can write and plot for 1 book, and I might take a chance on its sequel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.